Oh.
I just like to record them. I like to record them just to know what the heck happened. So welcome to FEMBA 45 number 3. I appreciate you guys being here today. If you wanna, do the thing we've been doing, like your name and your year and an adjective that describes you. If you want to rename yourself, that's fun. And same format as before. This is like 45 minutes of mostly just social networking. The idea, the genesis of this was, had we been able to have our normal physical palooza experience, you would have been standing in line to get a beer or in the club zone or opportunity zone, and you would have said, "Oh, what's your name?" And you would have met obviously other people in your year, but you would have met people a year or two above or below, or friends and family, the whole thing. So this is, it's not a perfect substitute at all, but it's an experiment and a chance for us to meet each other. And I'm just grateful that you're here. I hope everybody got the emails that I sent out this morning. Dominique Cagle is our second summer spotlight drive time podcast release, and it's a marathon. It's a long form interview. We talk, I think, an hour and a half. Is that right, Samantha? But if you see the video, if you look underneath it, YouTube's got this new functionality since April where you can basically create chapters. So if you want to hear about Dominique's Global Access Program experience, there's a chapter for that. If you want to hear about her career transition, she had a nice stair step up in her career. There's a chapter for that. If you want to hear about her, that's the introduction. She's a single mom. She commuted from Sacramento and Bakersfield. She's the mother of 2 gorgeous young children. And how she did that, that's in the introduction a little bit, and then sprinkled throughout. So, you may not have time to hear all of it, but if you're a new 2023, I invite you to listen to 1 or 2 of these all the way through, because we tried to ask them questions specifically for the 2020 graduates. Like, if you knew then what you know now, like, how did you maximize FEMBA? Because these are people who really were nominated by their peers as excellent examples of sort of the complete experience, academic, career, personal, that, they were nominated by their peers as, if you could only hear a few of the stories from our 2020 friends, these are stories you'd probably want to hear. And Dominique's, all of them are very high accomplishment, high achievement people, but they're also really just lovely examples of people who do that share success thing that we talk about as one of our pillars, like that kind of California collaborative, hey, we're in this together, let's all get to the finish line kind of atmosphere. So so that's Dominique Cagle, and if you want to listen to that, this weekend or something, I think you'll find her story is inspiring, and there's a lot of specificity that could be helpful, especially if you're a brand new person. If you're in the class of 2020, you just get to hear about somebody who was one of your classmates, and if you're a 21 or 22, again, there are elements of, oh, I could do what she did. So with no super further ado, my co-host today is James Feng. He doesn't have his super long descriptor on his name yet, but let me say a couple words of introduction. James is a current 3rd year student. So last year, Sarah Anderson, my co-host, she was a 2nd year. So James is in his 3rd year. He's originally from New York, came out here. Last year, he was our vice president within FEMBA Council. He had the position of VP of Social and Networking, which is a very cool gig, and he did a great job with that. And now this year, he is our VP of Student Affairs. He's been with Accenture for 8 years, had a very successful run in consulting, and is now having some new thoughts and ideas about career changes, kind of a post-consulting chapter that he's building now. He's in our business creation option. So we have the 2 master's thesis, the Global Access Program or the business creation option, either of which are the 10-unit experiences that count for your practicum, the 2nd and 3rd year of the program. What's the other thing? He's got a lot of friends at the other top schools, and so he's got a kind of a ear to the ground about how other schools are doing about the response to the challenges of the moment, COVID, et cetera. And, so he's got some perspective on that. But I appreciate James jumping into this exploratory, experiential kind of thing. So anything else I should say? I mean, ruggedly handsome, I think would be the only other last thing. Are you single? I don't know. I don't want to, no, sorry, stop. Okay. He's a great human being and my co-host. So if you want to just, James, I'll share it with you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think everyone's goal within the FEMBA program is to have Dylan kind of introduce them at one point. I think that's sort of the bar that that's when you know, like, you sort of made it, right? And Dylan, thank you for the warm welcome. This is my third FEMA 45. I had the opportunity to kind of meet some of you during some of the previous ones. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, even with some upperclassmen and some alumni here as well. And really, before we kind of go into the breakout rooms, the one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about was, I get a lot of questions around, if I had to do the FEMA program again, sort of what would I do differently? And so I had the opportunity to sort of think about that. And it's really about, what can I do to kind of get a head start at Anderson, sort of prior to joining the program? And I thought one interesting thing that I like to share with everyone is, let me just share my screen really quickly. I don't know if you guys had a chance to kind of dabble on this, but can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, so this is a link to all the academic, professional, and identity clubs at Anderson. So this is FEMBA Council. This was last year's board. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of show you guys was all the professional clubs here. And if I were to start at Anderson again, I would have probably spent more time on this site and kind of going through the different clubs, professional clubs, identity clubs, and interest clubs. And all of this is updated right now. So if you guys kind of take a look at all the new student leaders and officers, look for VP of FEMBA Relations. So like Jennifer Swift, Maria are the VP of FEMBA Relations. And I would reach out to them and kind of have a conversation, kind of get to know them and get a better understanding of the clubs. There's so many different clubs. So once you join Anderson, you're going to be inundated with all this information. I would go ahead and get a head start and reach out to some of these individuals to kind of get a better understanding of the club. I think, especially in the virtual world now and sort of all these different opportunities, everyone's more accessible. I think I see Sam on the call who, Sam, I believe you were the VP of FEMBA Relations for Entrepreneurship Association. Darcy's on the call. She was the former VP of FEMBA Relations. So I just want you guys to kind of get an idea of different things you could kind of do to get a head start. So reach out to some of these people, whether it's the Marketing Association, or if I were to go to another one, let's go to entertainment as an example. You'll see either VP of FEMBA or VP of MBA Relations. So Andrew is a FEMBA 2022. Perry's also in a VP position for partnerships within the club. But I would say find some of these people, reach out to them, shoot them an email, kind of get a better understanding of the club. Especially now with more of a virtual nature, this is an opportunity for you to kind of have these conversations. And I know we're going to have like a FEMBA Club fair coming up as well, but this is an opportunity to kind of get ahead. And if these people complain about getting 60 emails, just don't say that I told you to do it. That's all.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
Some people might not know what net impact means. I didn't when I started, because it's not as obvious as some of the other names. Do you want to just briefly, and I don't know, you might have already, do you want to just briefly touch on exactly what net impact is as a club for anybody that doesn't know that term?
Sure. I think so. Net impact is more around, I guess I don't even know what an impact is. I'm sorry, you have more information on the impact. But I think it's around like social impact, right? More or less, social impact.
It's gonna be if you're wanting to get into the social impact space, if you're wanting to get into the nonprofit space, if you're wanting to get into kind of the professional version of like your volunteering and basically your social responsibility space, and it's a very big, very kind of prominent program. So for anybody that's looking for that doesn't see anything on the professional page for nonprofit sector, your net impact is going to be what you're going to want to look into.
Yeah, and quickly looking at some of these officers, it looks like it's a very FEMBA heavy, like Pierre's a FEMBA, Lauren's a FEMBA, Liz is a FEMBA. So there's a lot of FEMBAs on the board here. So it looks like it's a pretty popular FEMBA club. But again, go to these. I'll post a link here. I would say go and do some research, find out some of these people, connect with them, and have that conversation. And then also, like during the breakout rooms, there's a lot of FEMBAs here. It looks like that are upperclassmen. I would say just kind of have that conversation, get to know them, and yeah, that's sort of my recommendation in terms of like how you guys kind of get a head start in the program. So Let me paste that link here so you guys have it.
Can I ask a quick question, James?
Sure.
So I've been wondering how does FEMBA interact with the clubs? I just remember my undergrad. You know, you went like Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday evenings to all the club meetings, like every single week. But when you're remote, like how does that work?
Yeah, so the clubs right now are sort of figuring out, or you're talking about like in a normal world or in like a virtual world?
Normal, maybe both.
Yeah. So I would say over the past 2 years, I would say a lot of the club programming has become a lot more FEMBA friendly. So you may still sort of have events during the day where you could sort of dial in. So sometimes they bring speakers in because that's sort of when the speakers are available. But some of like the more professional geared and recruiting events or bigger club events, some of those tend to be towards the evening or the weekend that are more FEMBA friendly, especially some of the larger clubs like Tech, EMA, Entrepreneurship Association. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities to participate in the club. And I would say if you're really interested in the club, whether it's a speaker's coming that you really want to listen to, FEMBAs in the past had just made time for it, right? Obviously, whether it's like taking an hour off of work or taking 2 hours off of work, they've made time for it if it's something that they really prioritize and they're something that they're really interested in. So it's just a matter of balancing. And another reason why you should kind of get that head start is to identify that 2 or 3 clubs that you're super, super interested in versus having 8 that you're super interested in, and then sort of balancing 8 different events versus having those 2 or 3 that you know that you really want to make your time for, and kind of thinking that through prior.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, I think we could do the breakout rooms. And sort of the prompt that we were thinking about today was within your breakout room, sort of in the club theme, you know, within your groups, talk through like what clubs you think you may be interested in, right? And just have that conversation. And it may spark some like, you know, things that you haven't thought about before around maybe marketing or finance. And maybe you want to join those clubs, or maybe talk to each other about why you want to join those clubs. And then if you have an upperclassman in your session, like ask them questions, and if you're an upperclassman, kind of provide your feedback, provide your perspective, what your club experiences are. So I think it's gonna be a good activity for you guys to kind of get ahead, reach out, identify those people that you want to talk to, kind of do it before you join Anderson while everyone is virtual and accessible. So.
All right, James, thank you very much for, another thing I forgot in my introduction of you, but I appreciate your appreciation of my introduction. You also did 2 global immersions, both India and Sweden, which obviously we're not going to travel this fall, but as soon as, you know, the world starts to get healthy again, and as Gonzalo said last night on the town hall, you know, a year from now when you all would typically be starting to consider your immersions, because typically the global immersions are the 2nd and 3rd year for the program. You know, those will be available. And so that was one other element of your experience, James, was that you went to both India and Sweden. So 2 different, anything you want to say about those? Just.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone should at least do one. I think it's super fascinating. And, you know, it's not like your typical global immersion that you may have done in undergrad. You're really kind of going to these countries. So you typically do 3 in-person class sessions at Anderson before you go in country. And then once you're in country, we work with a company to really help us do a bunch of like big company visits. So in like Sweden and Finland, the topic was around entrepreneurship. And so we visited a bunch of startups. So if you think about some of the biggest gaming companies, Clash of Clans, like Angry Birds, Spotify, some of those big Nordic companies. So we had the opportunity to visit them, talk to really senior level people there. And then in India, it was similar, except the topic in India was around finance, technology, and entertainment. And so we went there and we saw Sony, and we saw Viacom, we saw some of the big entertainment companies, some of the big healthcare companies. And we go there, we talk to the CEO, whoever the speaker is, and it's really insightful to sort of learn about business in a different country. And each individual global immersion has their own topic, whether it's entrepreneurship, entertainment, technology, social impact in South Africa. So there's a variety of programming that's done, and you're going with, you know, I think 40 or so classmates across the Anderson program. So I definitely recommend it. You know, you make a lot of really good friends, and it's just a different perspective. And then you have access to these companies that you kind of get to go and listen to and interact with people there. So highly recommended. I went to Sweden and Finland with Samantha, and I went to India with Darcy. I think she's on the call as well. So that's sort of, you know, how Sam and I met, and we became good friends, and we still talk today. And Darcy and I were on FEMBA Council. We were on FEMBA Council together, but, you know, we spent a lot of time in India together as well. So
it was so much fun. I mean, I learned a lot too, but it's just, you can't really, unless you actually do one, then you kind of understand.
yeah,
Well,
Victor's on the call. He went to Sweden and Finland with us as well. I saw you put
that's
something in the chat. Yeah, we jumped into the Baltic Sea when it was cold, and we went to a sauna. It was cool.
Awesome. Thank you for a little bit of flavor about that. And that, you know, we'll be back online. We'll be healthy and traveling again by the time, you know, for those of you who are just coming in, and I know we have upper class also. So I'm gonna send you into the room. So we got about 30 minutes till 12:50. I mean, if you want to stay on longer, you're totally welcome. I'm gonna stop the recording.